Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And this is our Week 12 preview.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Gobble gobble motherfuckers, happy Thanksgiving to all. And with that, let's start off the show by asking Rob, what's your favorite Thanksgiving football memory?
Oh man, what a thoughtful question. Let me think. I know. Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was the man on Thanksgiving. Quick stat for you. He had 210 carries for 931 yards. That is 4.43 yards per carry and amassed 8 touchdowns. That's wonderful. That guy was a maniac in fantasy football.
Speaking of maniacs, look at O.J. Simpson. I agree. Two of the greatest running backs of all time are a guy who could have been considered the GOAT but retired too early, and another guy who killed 2 people and couldn't fit into a pair of gloves not made for playing football. It's absolutely wild. But here's a real turkey for you. Thanksgiving Day football is kicking off with a complete barn burner matchup in the Chicago Bears at Detroit Lions.
Bears at Lions.
Bears D is actually a top 5 play this week. Thing is, Jared Goff might not return from his oblique injury, and Tim Boyle could once again stink up the field with this anemic offense. I really don't think any of the Lions are worth playing, even DeAndre Swift. The Bears D has been looking much better. Play him as a top 5 defense.
And Ryan, I'm going to have our intern Dave comment on this game for me. Dave, take it away.
I can tell you that I plead the fifth.
Raiders at Cowboys.
I think Michael Gallup is going to fill in nicely for Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper dealing with the COVID protocol still. CeeDee Lamb nursing concussion. Both are not expected to return for the Thanksgiving matchup. I would ignore the Cedric Wilson hype and just focus on Michael Gallup, who's under-owned in a lot of leagues. He could be your flex 2 play.
Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott dealing with a knee injury, got injured last week. He has practiced, but with it being the Thursday game that it is, I do believe that Tony Pollard could see some extra snaps. So I'm looking at Tony Pollard in any type of flex play this week with the Zeke knee injury.
Bills at Saints.
Josh Allen's probably going to continue his slide. Marshawn Lattimore will be shadowing Stephon Diggs, and the Saints are about upper middle of the pack against both the pass and the run. The Bills' run has been weak with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss trading off time, but also being inconsistent and ineffective. I think we're going to see them have some trouble establishing play action for Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, who seems to be a little mentally weak, is probably going to continue to make those bad throws that he was known for the first 2 years of his career. Josh Allen, I'm sorry, but your Josh is Jack cereal is not doing you any favors at the moment.
Hashtag Josh Allen is a pansy. I'm going back to my man Juwan Johnson. The Saints are going to need a tight end with Adam Troutman being out 4 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain, so I believe Juwan Johnson has a decent chance at vulturing some sort of touchdown with the Saints looking to throw, and Simeon has looked pretty good so far, so I'm going to go back to my dude, Juwan Johnson.
Now we'll move on to those Sunday games.
Steelers at Bengals.
Aside from Las Vegas, Bengals D has actually been very bad, giving up 254 passing yards per game on average. Big Ben, on the Steelers side of the ball, has not thrown a pick since week 4, and he's coming off his best game of the season with about 24 fantasy points in our ESPN Standard Scoring League that we've slightly modified just a little bit on the passing yards and the receptions. Don't be paranoid about a hype pick, a knee-jerk reaction pick where you've already seen him have some success and you just assume he's going to do it again. Don't be afraid of that or paranoid about it. He probably will repeat as a top 10 QB this week.
Yeah, and I'm piggybacking off that Steelers defense being so bad that I believe Joe Burrow will probably have one of his better games this season. Justin Herbert lit him up. Herbert was struggling, so that might have just that Steelers defense was able to get Herbert back on track, and I believe that Joe Burrow could have similar success this week against a shredded Steelers defense.
Jets at Texans.
David Johnson could actually be a good play for what? Jesus Christ, why am I even saying this? But the Jets D is 28th in the league against the rush with 132 yards against per game. Tyrod's struggling for the Texans right now, and hell, David Johnson's struggling. Everybody in the Texans is struggling. Their owner's struggling. Deshaun Watson, he's still there, and he's struggling with his dick in a massage parlor. The fans are definitely struggling. I don't even know why I'm saying this, but David Johnson, just try not to make me look like an idiot.
Don't worry, Ryan. I will surely remind you that next week when David Tiny Johnson does absolutely nothing, just like he always does. I'm going Elijah Moore. The Jets wide receiver is having a fantastic rookie season. He is averaging 16.6 points per game, and I want to say this last 4 or 5 games, and he's rostered in just under 60% of leagues. I know it's the Jets, but talent is talent in fantasy. I say go pick up Elijah Moore.
Buccaneers at Colts.
This is kind of speculation. Can the Bucs D actually contain J-Tay? This guy might be the new LT, but enough with the abbreviation. Jonathan Taylor averaging 5.8 yards a carry on the season. He's got 13 rushing TDs. That's insane. This is actually MVP material at this point, but Tampa Bay is first against the run with only 78 yards against per game. It's just going to be interesting. I'm not saying to take anybody one way or the other, but maybe this is the time that, much like I said last week, do you temper your expectations, or is he the real deal? I'm giving you absolutely no information right now.
And on a side note, I'm really happy that Jonathan Taylor Thomas is revitalizing his career from an actor to being a running back for the Indianapolis Colts. Real quick, I'm going to vent being a fresh Fournette, which sounds like an Old Spice and a deodorant owner, and a former Ronald Jones owner. Seeing Ronald Jones vulture a touchdown from Leonard Fournette last week made me furious. Thanks, Ronald McDonald Jones. You always have a knack for making me look like a clown.
Falcons at Jaguars.
Jaguars D could actually be top 10. I'm saying the craziest stuff in this podcast. Really, but Matt Ryan looks awful. Josh Rosen is awful. Patterson's questionable to return on a team that already can't run consistently. So the Jaguars D might not be the worst play if you really have to stream someone this week. They could be top 10.
Laviska Shenault. This has to be the week. Trevor Lawrence, please throw a touchdown to Laviska Shenault.
And with that being said, we are now suddenly taking applications for a new co-host of Fantasy R&R. We'll see you later, Rob.
Panthers at Dolphins.
Cam Newton is back, and this is a game he can win while Tua hands the ball to the Panthers on multiple 3-and-outs. Tua has been struggling. It's going to get the ball back into the Panthers' hands. Cam Newton has been looking great on the run right now, but I'm not sure how things are going to play out for the pass. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in usage with DJ Moore like we were expecting and projecting last week, but the question is, can he keep it up and continue to work in this system? I think this is a good matchup, and Cam Newton can continue to kind of be a late-season breakout candidate for your fantasy teams during the playoff run.
Yeah, I'm not making a bold statement with this or anything, but Christian McCaffrey has looked pretty good. Of course, you're starting the guy. Since he's been back from his injury, he's played the last 3 games. He is averaging 5.6 yards per carry, and I do believe that they're probably limiting him to eventually having to take the reins off of Christian McCaffrey-type talent at running back, so I believe CMC comes back storming this week.
Titans at Patriots.
As Stephanie likes to say in our ESPN League, Golden Taint. Do not pick up Golden Tate as a speculative ad. He's not going to contribute to the offense regardless of Julio Jones' IR status. I know a lot of people saw Adrian Peterson get waived. Golden Tate signed by the Titans. I just think it's going to be one of those things where you can just leave him on the waiver wires.
I'm going Hunter Henry in this one. The guy doesn't get the yards, but he gets the targets in the end zone, which counts for fantasy football. Believe it or not, Hunter Henry leads all tight ends in touchdowns this season, and he's only rostered in just under 60% of leagues. I say pick up Hunter Henry this week. Mac Jones is looking a hell of a lot better.
Eagles at Giants.
Evan Ingram's finally going to have a day, as the Eagles are by far the worst in the league against tight ends with 800 yards and 9 TDs against them. Evan Ingram is a physical tight end and averages about 5 targets per game. So even with the struggles you see in the Giants, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, I think that he's still worth looking at as a target-heavy tight end as opposed to some of the other guys you see in the league, even with Kyle Pitts. Sometimes only gets targeted 3 times a game, which is crazy, but that's the way it is. Giants have just fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett, so we might be able to see a little bit of an uptick in production coming forward with Evan Ingram. He's going to be a good tight end play this week.
Yeah, I'm staying on the same side of the ball. Kadarius Toney will go off. Why, do you ask? Not because I have a crystal ball or anything, only because I had to drop him last week. Kadarius Toney looks like a mighty fine play wide receiver going forward. Unfortunately, I had to drop him, but I believe Kadarius Toney has a good game against the Eagles with not too many targets with all the injuries with the Giants.
Chargers at Broncos.
This is just a friendly reminder of an important public service announcement. Drew Lock sucks.
Hashtag screw you, Drew.
Rams at Packers.
Aaron Rodgers actually had an already injured toe stepped on around halftime in the game against the Vikings last week, where, ironically, even after that performance, He ends up QB9 on the season behind the next guy I'll be talking about in a second. The Rams D is actually going to be a viable play against this former multi-time MVP and Super Bowl winner.
I'm going Van Jefferson in this one. Another one of my guys I've just liked all season. After Monday night's monstrosity a game against San Francisco, the Rams are going to have to throw the ball clearly. And I believe Van Jefferson, any of these receivers could go off for LA, especially with the injury to Robert Woods.
Vikings at 49ers.
Kirk Cousins strikes again. This guy just can't get him out of my head. This is real Kylie Minogue shit. This dude is actually somehow producing all season and always flies under the radar. He gets passed around like Hunter Biden's crack pipe in every league. The San Francisco secondary is stretched thin, and Cousins is actually QB8, one position ahead of the aforementioned Aaron Rodgers. He's averaging 19 fantasy points per game, 11 TDs and no picks in the last 5 games. This is getting kind of crazy. Kirk Cousins might be your playoff winner here.
Yep, and it's time to take out the lasagna this Thanksgiving, because I'm thankful for the Italian sedan that is Jimmy Garoppolo. That's right, he is not good enough to be a stallion, but he serves his purpose just well enough, similar to the thrill you have each time you drive a sedan. Let's go, Brandon Ayuk.
Browns at Ravens.
Downgrade all of your Cleveland Browns wide receivers, including Peoples-Jones. Mayfield is definitely having an issue with the injury that we mentioned before on this show. He is not going to have surgery to end the season. He's waiting until after the season, a lot like Odell Beckham Jr. when we heard that story. The option behind him is Case Keenum, who had a little bit of a flash earlier in the year, but we're not going to see any kind of consistency coming from him and that team. I'm really ready to just have all of your main Browns receivers put up complete donuts for the rest of the year, including Jarvis Landry.
Okay, I have to believe that this is the game Rashad Bateman breaks out, only if Lamar Jackson plays. We were so close to it last week. This is a very good talent at wide receiver. And if Jackson plays, Rashad Bateman will have that game. I know I keep saying this, but I'm going to push it because I believe this dude has got the talent.
Seahawks at Washington football team.
I think Tyler Lockett's going to be a massive target in this game. He's quietly the wide receiver 20 on the year so far, and his high volume of targets, averaging 12 fantasy points per game, are only going to serve that claim more. Washington football team is abysmal against the pass. This could actually be a QB shootout with Taylor Heineke looking more and more competent at the helm behind and on a team that's actually struggling in pretty much all aspects of their complete game. So watch for Russell Wilson and Taylor Heineke kind of trade a lot of passes back and forth, and that goes right along with what Rob's pick is.
Yep, Logan Thomas returned from injury today. I believe Logan Thomas can safely be put back in your tight end position. This is a very good talent. And Washington is gonna be throwing the ball like you're saying, Ryan. That defense is pretty bad. Both defenses are bad, so I do believe it's going to be a shootout early and often in the Monday Night Showdown.
So go slobber all over a turducken. Once again, this was Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We will see you next time.